All right, guys, what's going on? It's Jack, and welcome back to another video. And today I want to talk about something that's actually quite important, especially now with this week. For those of you guys that don't know, right now we just finished with the day 3 or the day 4, as of this day, of the big trial between the Activision Blizzard merger with Microsoft. About that trial, all the major players have taken the stand at this point. Phil Spencer's taken the stand. Bobby Kotick himself has taken the stand. I think even Jim Ryan took the stand and everything. We've had pretty much all the major players from both parties take the stand on this. And it's a big thing. And there is, long story short, there definitely is a possibility that Microsoft could actually win this thing. Now, time will determine whether or not they do or don't. But with that being said, I think it's safe to assume that most of us here on the channel either are or have become Call of Duty refugees, so to speak, as Mark Rubin so wisely put it. So with that being said, I want to ask you guys a very important question, as well as talk about the subject for a little bit today. And that is, do you think, and again, of course, all opinions are welcomed, of course, do you think that Call of Duty is in better hands under Microsoft? Now, I will say this, though. One thing that is definitely going to be better as far as Call of Duty is concerned, or something that has to do with Call of Duty, is that there's definitely going to be a better workplace environment in terms of, what the workers are kind of going through now under the current Activision Blizzard. And as far as I understand, if Microsoft wins this, everybody's going to be pretty much answering to Phil Spencer, because he's going to be put in charge of that division or whatnot. And the thing is ultimately that the better workplace environment, the better the product, and around we go, at least in theory, right? So what I'm thinking at this point is there a chance for Call of Duty to kind of find some footing again, right? After changing so much, and after this and after that. Now, there's two possible answers to this. There's yes, and then there's no, of course. So, and obviously the people that are 100% not sure are probably going to say maybe, but ultimately at the end of the day, it's either a yes or no. Those are going to be one of the two results that's going to happen eventually. And the thing is, ultimately, one of the reasons why Microsoft wanted to purchase Activision Blizzard is because, number one, they saw that they could purchase them under a discount, despite the fact that they could probably afford them if there was no discount. And they just took advantage of an opportunity. And on top of that, there's a lot of really great franchises under the Activision Blizzard, house, so to speak, right? So, and in terms of what Microsoft's trying to accomplish, right? So, what I'm trying to say here at this point is that, is it going to be just basically business as usual, right? And what I mean is, is Microsoft just going to buy these guys and then kind of let the chips fall where they may and just try to get a return on investment as fast as possible, whether it means they do cool shit or not? Because ultimately, they are business. That's the one thing that Activision and Microsoft have in common, right? It is all about, return on investment in a business and stuff like that. I get it. However, with that being said, I can't help but think that Call of Duty itself will be under better hands as far as the game is concerned. But at the same time, I still wouldn't be surprised if things went south or, heaven forbid, even worse. And I'm not necessarily talking about the workplace environment. I'm talking about more like the quality of the games, how they release, and all that kind of other stuff, right? Because a lot of people will point their finger to, hey, look what happened with Redfall. A lot of other people will say, hey, look what happened with Halo Infinite. A lot of other people will say, hey, look at the stake that Microsoft is in now. They've been struggling, except for Game Pass, right? Game Pass has been that one kind of, depending on how you look at it, has been that kind of one saving grace, that one golden gem in terms of what Microsoft is offering, right? For the most part. And ultimately, these people that would point their fingers to these situations that I just mentioned, they're not wrong. You cannot ignore what happened with Redfall. You cannot ignore with what happened with Halo Infinite, or what has been happening with Halo over the years because of everything with 3.3 and et cetera, right? So the management is a problem. Like, if you think about it, the management is a problem in current Activision because kind of shown that Microsoft, like they kind of, at least with a few of the acquisitions or whatnot, or some of the creators that they're doing, is what they're doing is they've also kind of let them do their thing, and you can't fully do that. I mean, they're all about letting the creators create, which is on one hand a good thing, but at the same time, if they go too far off base, it ends up turning into something completely different that the franchise is not known for itself. Case in point, look at Black Ops 4 for a minute, right? Now, with Black Ops 4, for those of you guys that don't know or don't remember, Black Ops 4 was actually going to be different than what we got. It's one of the reasons why the multiplayer is the way it is and why the EKIA exists the way it is, like in terms of assists being valued as much as kills and everything else that came around it. Black Ops 4 was going to be a completely different kind of game. It was almost going to be like a hero shooter or something like that. But it wasn't going to be COD. And then when the pros came in to play it, and thank God they were called in early enough, when the pros came in to play it, they were basically like, what the hell is this? This is not Call of Duty. So Treyarch was basically forced to kind of dial it down because they're, or to kind of go back and redo the whole thing and to get what we got for Black Ops 4, because what ended up happening is that Treyarch's creativity went too far to the point to where they got off base from what Call of Duty is, and it became something completely different. And I'm starting to wonder what Black Ops 4 actually would have been like if that never took place. In other words, if the pros never got called in time, or the content creators and all that kind of other stuff to play test the game and to play the game and to give feedback to the devs, it's like, what the hell? And thankfully, Treyarch was also open enough to kind of go back, right, and hit the reverse button in terms of what they were. Thank goodness, because if they didn't, Black Ops 4 could have easily been a WTF situation, so to speak, right? So, upon this conversation here, you've got all sorts of possibilities that could happen if Microsoft wins this thing. Now, like I mentioned earlier, the work environment is going to be improved, which is great, which is, you know, which makes it potential for everything else to be better, right? However, with that being said, it is a business, and obviously Microsoft wants return on investment. All these companies and corporations do it. It doesn't matter how rich or poor they are. They want return on investment. It's just the way it works. Okay. So, oh, by the way, Phil Spencer was asked numerous times if, you know, and under oath as well, whether or not they would make Call of Duty exclusive. And numerous times he said, no, they would not make Call of Duty exclusive to Xbox. So I thought that was kind of interesting how they kept on doing it. And I've been listening to podcasts about this. I've been listening to the videos about this. But again, at the same time, I don't remember every single detail. But at the end of the day, I was really inspired to make this video because it's a very interesting time right now in terms of whether or not this acquisition is allowed to pass. And what changes do you think or expect will happen if Microsoft takes over? And I want like best case scenario, worst case scenario, right? I think worst case scenario, we can pretty much expect the same as usual as far as Microsoft's inability, or should I say their troubles or their Achilles heel in terms of what they're going through. Because the thing is this, like, and of course, best case scenario is also something that we can look up upon history, right? So in the original Xbox era, Xbox was killing it, right? Thanks to a little game called Halo Combat Evolved. But at the same time, they were able to build off of that. And then the Xbox 360 era was an amazing era, right? Sony ended up catching up, but during the console wars time during the 360 era, Xbox 360 barely won that, because first they were winning by like a lot, and then Sony started catching up, and which is great, you know, overall for the gaming community. But I think it's safe to say that during that time, I think the Xbox 360 era won. And then when Xbox, you know, that was when Xbox went in a completely different direction or whatnot, when they announced the Xbox One, it's like ever since then, shit hasn't been too good, right? And they've been struggling ever since that time. And thankfully, Game Pass has been something great. And then you've got all these other things in between. However, Microsoft has all these acquisitions that they've made. They've again, and if they win this, it's also going to be another big, huge step. But with that being said, it doesn't necessarily translate to like the game is going to be better. Now, again, I said not necessarily. That doesn't mean that it's not possible. So I want to know in the comments section, where do you guys stand on this? Do you guys believe that something better will happen with Call of Duty in terms of the quality of the game and less BS and everything like that? Again, putting the whole workplace environment thing to the side real quick, what do you think Microsoft can do to benefit Call of Duty? Like, what? Oh, okay, let me rephrase that. What kind of benefit will Call of Duty receive under Microsoft in comparison to where they currently are now? I'm actually legitimately curious as to what you think, because Microsoft is actually very ambitious in terms of what they want to do, and they basically want everybody to play regardless of what platform you're on or whatever system you're using or whatever. They want everybody to play. So and as a matter of fact, I think the main man at Microsoft, not Phil, but the guy, Phil's boss, basically, forget his name, I apologize, but I think he said that he's actually against system exclusives. So for a second there, think for a second real quick, some of these Microsoft exclusives. Can you imagine, like imagine Halo Infinite, for instance, right? Imagine Halo Infinite, the player count of Halo Infinite, if PlayStation players were allowed to play that as well. Or like, let's just say for a second there that like somebody else was in charge of that game or something like that. Or, just kind of throwing that out there for a minute. Some of these Microsoft games or whatnot, just imagine like if they weren't Microsoft exclusives, right? Or the fact that you can make it interesting in terms of how those games are developed. And sometimes every once in a while I ask myself, what if a PlayStation developer was in charge of Halo and it was a multi-platform third-party game, right? I would, man, that kind of makes me think a little bit, and I'm sure it makes you guys think too. So anyway, before we get off on too much of a tangent, I'm going to end it here for the sake of the length of this video, but I think I've said enough in this conversation to at least spark some kind of an answer out of you guys, because at the end of the day, there are a multitude of reasons to believe as to why things wouldn't change very much, or we don't expect much, because in terms of what's been going on with Microsoft, in terms of what we've seen so far in this console generation, as well as some of the things we've seen in the past console generation, it's like, they've got their own house to worry about, right? So now it's like, okay, when you get these other developers working on, like, let's say a Call of Duty, which is specifically what we're talking about here in this video, like, what could possibly happen for the better? And at the same time, can we expect just more of the same? That's where I'm standing here. It's a back and forth kind of thing. I can't help but think that maybe nothing will change, but at the same time, if there is a possibility for anything to change, it would be now, because we know for sure, it's a guarantee that nothing will change, right? It's going to be business as usual if the current Activision, continues to do what they do with the franchise or what, right? Because they're already succeeding financially, so why do they need to change? The only way we can change Call of Duty is by affecting their pockets, but unfortunately right now that is so much easier said than done, that a lot of us have just gone on to play different games or have become Call of Duty refugees, and we're looking at games like X Defiant or whatever else might come afterwards, or maybe different shooters out there, in order to try to get our fix, or or to be entertained or to be having fun, if that's if the FPS genre of that kind is what floats your boat. So but at the end of the day, I'm really curious to know what you guys think. So if you would be kindly let me know down in the comments section, I'd greatly appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm probably going to have like Black Ops, some very old Black Ops 2 gameplay, maybe my first Thunderstruck gaming video of Black Ops 2, and maybe a couple of older Call of Duties or whatnot, and just kind of use my old footage that didn't get very many views back in the day or something like that, and paste it over here. Who knows? I don't know. We'll see. But I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.